Hello and welcome to the pod. I'm Nathan Fink.
I'm Joelyn Drennan, and this is New Hampshire Family Now,
a show about building family in the Granite State. Today in the pod, Joelyn and I talk family vision. She stalks her son's future self in an Airstream trailer. And later, Will Stewart, Executive Director of Stay Work Play New Hampshire, joins us for a segment we call Businesses That Build Family. New Hampshire Family Now is brought to you by the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. Since 1962, the Charitable Foundation has worked hand in hand with generous and visionary citizens to maximize the power of giving and support, collaborate, and lead innovative initiatives. Initiatives like New Hampshire Tomorrow, which is focused on making sure children and families have access to education, healthcare, and career pathways to ensure every family member thrives. To learn more about New Hampshire Charitable Foundation and all their initiatives, go to www.nhcf.org. This podcast was also brought to you by Family Support New Hampshire. Family Support New Hampshire is NH's coalition of family resource centers and family strengthening programs that exist to ensure Granite State families have access to resources so both caregivers and children can succeed, because supported families are strong families. To find a family resource center near you, visit www.fsnh.org. Hello and welcome to the pod. Joelyn's here, thankfully, with a fresh new haircut. So fresh and so clean, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Getting my spring lightning.
My spring sprung is just shine.
Do you like wax?
I just try to not look like a baby bird. So how's the family? How are things going?
Good. Yeah, we're excited for the spring and, waiting for spring sports to start. And what's going on in the Fink household?
There's a lot. There's I feel like lately work is what we're up to. The kids are good. I think the kids are. I know it feels like we've been so busy. I went to a friend's house up in South Portland the other day, and he has that. Do you know the Oculus headset? Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It's the virtual reality.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so he invited me up. He's kind of an audiophile, like a techno geek kind of, and he's an awesome guy in case he listens, but he won't. But I went upstairs and he was like, I got to show you something. And so he mounts this giant thing on my head and he's just like, stand over there in this circle. And I'm like, okay, cool. And he hits a button and he takes me to the top of this mountain. And I was standing up there and I had this moment of, oh my gosh, I just want to stay up here. It's been like 6 years since I've been able to look over the hump.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like I'm standing on this mountaintop, I'm looking around and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can see. And it was kind of counterintuitive because, for the last 6 years, it's been baby, housing, financial stability, another baby, job, pandemic.
Yeah. Yep.
And so all of a sudden I was in this place where I was like, oh my gosh, I can see over things. I don't know. I felt like I needed to start raising my viewpoint. Don't you ever feel like that? Like half of your day is just reacting to stuff?
Oh, yeah. Yep. All the time. I think I spend more time just going, I feel like it's going through the motions. It's like work. I feel like it's a little more, I know I have certain things I need to get done. I do them and that, I check that box and it feels good. But then I just am on autopilot and I don't have a plan when I'm, home unless I actually have an appointment or something. Otherwise I'm just I'm going to clean the oven or I'm going to do whatever. And so that broader,
working on that voice project with Pick a New Hampshire Family Voices, that really brought this idea, I think, of vision for your family to the forefront, because having a vision, and I'm not sure that I have one at this moment because of all that reaction. And I think the idea of having a vision for your family is something that all of a sudden felt like a luxury. And do you have one for your family, or is it one of those things that...
I think I have a vision, but it's not a well thought out, I don't have metrics and milestones and things I want to meet. I think my vision for my family is that we're healthy, we are comfortable, we are relating to each other, that my son, sees my husband and I as a resource, and that he's always comfortable coming to us if he has a problem, and really making sure that we're intentional about setting him up so that he can handle problems on his own, and that he's got a good education, and that we are providing all the resources and tools and things that he needs to be independent. That's really my vision for my family. Also, I would like to live in Florida at some point.
Just for the heat.
Yeah.
It's funny. I don't know if this is a past generation thing or, like your child's going to be a doctor. You aspire for them to be something, right? But the whole conversation or the whole thought process has me kind of thinking about my gaze. And like what you just said, like, how do you prepare your children for what they might eventually be, even though it might fall outside your vision?
Yeah, I think that the best thing that you can do is prepare them to be a good, strong, kind, independent person that is curious and like nurture that curiosity so that they'll eventually find whatever path it is that they want to go. And then you support that, assuming it's not anything,
Criminal.
Yeah.
I mean, how would you feel, say, if Wiley in 10 years decided he wanted to move to LA to be an actor? What would go through your head?
I will support his vision, and I will follow him in an Airstream trailer and just park it outside of whatever.
They're going to love you on set.
Mommy's always there. I'm always here to support you.
Yeah, that's it's interesting because as they grow up, I keep thinking about like whether or not how hard is it going to be for me to adjust to that? Because at some point you dictate terms and then all of a sudden they're dictated back to you.
And I think one of the things you can do now is be collaborative in decision making with them now, even on small things like here's an outfit choice. Here's you can have this or this, and that's teaching them to make choices. And you're participating in that. So it's like, so that's how you kind of build towards that. So when there is that separation.
I love that. I think that's really great. And it really speaks truly to essentially what we're trying to do here in many different ways: collaboration, engagement, making sure that decisions across the board in legislature, in even businesses are really consulting those people that are affected by the choices that are made.
Oh, I absolutely. I think it's super important for businesses to kind of take a role in strengthening families and being supportive of their workers that are, moms and dads or caregivers. If workplaces support families with flexible policies and just that understanding. And I think really one of the benefits of the pandemic and everybody being on Zoom has been this like humanizing of work. It's like we're in a meeting, but I got a kid in my lap and everyone's like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But before you didn't see that. And so it was just like, oh, she's late again. She's going to pick her kid up. Okay.
It's true. And it has gone from trying to balance work and family to literally balancing your child on your knee while you're doing things.
Oh, yep.
Different environment, but I'm super excited you brought that up though, because in the second half of the podcast, Will Stewart from Stay Work Play New Hampshire is going to be on talking about that very thing. So anyway, I appreciate seeing you.
Yeah, likewise.
And when we come back, I interview Will Stewart from Stay Work Play New Hampshire. Don't go anywhere. Many thanks to New Hampshire's Office of Social and Emotional Wellness for sponsoring this podcast. Started within New Hampshire's Department of Education, the Office of Social and Emotional Wellness consolidates policy development and implements projects and programs that are focused on health and wellness with an emphasis on behavioral health of all students, youth, and families. To learn more about the Department of Education and its many programs and approaches, visit www.education.nh.gov. Today's show was also brought to you by Merrimack County Savings Bank, who proudly supports the mission and efforts of New Hampshire Children's Trust. Founded in 1867, Merrimack has served people, businesses, nonprofits, and municipalities in central and southern New Hampshire for over 155 years by treating everyone with care, respect, and compassion. Visit your local offices in Bow, Concord, Contoocook, Hooksett, and Nashua, or go to www.themerrimack.com. New Hampshire Family Now is a proud participant in the Your Voice campaign. Together, the Parent Information Center, New Hampshire Family Voices, and New Hampshire Children's Trust have launched a statewide campaign dedicated to celebrating the critical role family voice plays in shaping services and systems throughout the Granite State. Because questions families ask and the information they share often makes a difference in understanding a diagnosis, building an effective treatment plan, and informing the services they use every day. To learn more about the campaign, go to nhchildrenstrust.org/yourvoice or picnh.org/yourvoice. Hello and welcome to the pod. Today on the show, I'm happy to welcome Will Stewart, Executive Director of Stay Work Play New Hampshire. Will, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So I have to admit, I see your incredible social everywhere on LinkedIn, on Facebook, the trainings that you're running with the Rising Stars Young Leadership Program. And I would love for you to just dive in. Can you tell me a little bit about your mission to build a vibrant New Hampshire and what that looks like?
Sure. So Stay Work Play is a statewide nonprofit whose mission is to attract and retain more young people. Because we have a demographic challenge here in New Hampshire. We're the second oldest state in the country. We're the number one exporter of high school graduates who want a bachelor's degree. Nearly 2 out of 3 are leaving the state right out of the gate. And also we have one of the lowest unemployment rates, even pre-pandemic. And now we're back to those levels at under 3%. So our employers are screaming for employees. Our towns are screaming for, volunteers to serve in, elected and appointed positions. Our nonprofits are screaming for board and committee members. So we need more people in general here in New Hampshire, and more young people in particular, to be able to step up into these roles, so that we're able to continue to thrive here in New Hampshire. So that's really what we're all about, and really wanting to make New Hampshire a more attractive place for young people so that we're able to attract and retain them better.
Now, it's such a cool initiative. I mean, I don't want to call it an initiative because, of course, you guys are a 501c3. Such a cool organization. Where did this come from?
Yeah, our origin story really starts in I guess back in 2008, 2009. A number of people kind of got together around a kitchen room table, and you were looking at demographic trends and saying, we need to do something about it. And the impetus for that was something called the 55% initiative, or I should say it turned into the 55% initiative, that was aiming to increase the number of college graduates who stay in New Hampshire after graduation from 50% to 55%. Pretty modest number there, but a challenge. That was kind of the genesis, and really the players around the table at that time, included the College and University Council, the Business and Industry Association, and several groups like that. And they all realized that while this is super important to everybody, nobody individually had the bandwidth to do it. So they recognized that a new organization was needed to focus on this exclusively.
I mean, it must be fun because to celebrate New Hampshire and all that it has, I mean, obviously it's challenging, but...
Oh, it certainly is. And it's a lot of fun. And you're right. It's not to say there aren't challenges. I mean, there certainly are on a number of levels. But the fact that, what I get to do and my team every day is celebrate New Hampshire, be able to market and brand it as a place of opportunity for young people. And it really is. And being able to tell those stories is a lot of fun. And then, being able to do nonpartisan issues-based advocacy on some of those issues that make a difference, on whether people stay or leave is also fun. Mm-hmm. So we get to have a lot of fun every single day, and really enjoying it. I've been with the organization for about 4.5 years now, and it is fulfilling and rewarding on a number of levels.
That's awesome. No, it's funny to me when I consider this people 20 to 30 somethings fleeing, because when I was 20 to 30 something, you couldn't keep me out of the state. And so this might be kind of counterintuitive, but I can't imagine the drivers that are pushing 20 and 30-year-olds elsewhere. What are some of the drivers, and what are some of the potential solutions to that, those drivers?
To kind of start off, I can answer the question, but I will say that, the answers I'm about to respond with are not just things that we think are reasons that drive people away and keep them here. But we have good data. We conducted a survey, or I should say we commissioned a professional survey a few years ago, looking at those exact reasons, asking young people in their 20s and 30s living in New Hampshire, why do you stay here? What might make you leave one day? And so we got some good data on that. And the biggest issue then and now, and it's probably only gotten worse, is housing affordability.
How old are you?
I am 35.
I'm 37. What do you wish New Hampshire had that it doesn't?
Affordable housing.
Currently, we're in the market for a house, and we're very priced out of the market. We really wish that there was some affordable housing in the state for our age bracket.
And really affordability across the board, from housing to childcare, lack of, in some places of the state, career opportunities. And, there are a number of jobs. You mentioned that low unemployment rate, but a lot of folks really, up north and in the far western parts of the state said it's hard to build a career. They might be able to find a job, but not be able to advance without going farther south in the state or out of state.
Mostly job. I agree with that.
Just because fresh graduated, so
yeah,
gotta find.
And also, like, a lot of people out of college like to go to Boston and things like that. And I don't think this is like a lot of college graduates are here.
Yeah. How old are you guys?
22.
They mentioned things like lack of cultural diversity, a lack of public transportation options, a lack of quality nightlife and entertainment options, and few opportunities to meet people. And really, out of this survey, one of the biggest challenges that we heard, and it surprised us, some of these things didn't surprise us. Mm-hmm. We know it's an expensive place, housing is expensive, childcare is expensive. But one of the things that surprised us, 1 in 5 respondents said they didn't have a single friend, in close proximity to them. 1 out of 5, 21%. And, that was really, it's sad, on an individual level, you don't have friends, but it's really concerning from an attraction and retention standpoint, particularly a retention standpoint, because if you don't have friends and that means your job's probably just a job.
That's one thing I struggle with. I don't have a place to go. I don't have any friends up here. It's very hard to meet people. I'm doing 2 jobs where I technically work from home and then I'm subbing. And when I'm subbing, I meet some people there, but they're all, twice my age.
And you're not going and watching the game with somebody on Sunday. You're not going to yoga with somebody on Saturday afternoon. You're not meeting up for coffee or a beer or whatever. And if another job offer comes along or another opportunity to go back to where you might be originally from comes up, I think you're that much more likely to take it if you don't have those social connections keeping you here.
All depends on my job, I think. Wherever I get a job, if it's in New Hampshire, then I'll probably stay up here. If it's in Boston or something closer to home, I'm from Mass, so I'll probably go home.
I remember this is kind of a quote that still haunts me. So Stay Work Play a couple of years ago, we did this thing called Policy and Pints, where we went around the state, different regions, talking to young people in craft breweries. Go figure, if you offer somebody a free beer, they'll show up and give you their opinion.
Where was that, by the way? I'm going to write this down.
As soon as this COVID stuff is behind us, we can't wait to get behind this and start doing this again. But in this particular event, we were up in the Upper Valley and at Salt Hill Pub in Lebanon, and asking people, what do you like about the Upper Valley? What might lead you to leave? And this one woman said, and I still remember it, and she was speaking about the Upper Valley in particular, but I think it applies to New Hampshire writ large. She said, the Upper Valley is a great place to raise a family. She said, but it's a very difficult place to start one. And I think that that really encapsulates New Hampshire for a lot of young people. It's just hard to get that toehold here, that once you get here and you get established, there's no place you'd rather be.
It's beautiful up here. It is absolutely beautiful. The mountains, the foliage.
Yeah, same. I love having the access to the mountains, being able to go somewhere a bit off the grid and just have peace, enjoy nature.
New Hampshire, I did think about living here also because of you got a house far apart from the neighbor and stuff like that. I like it. More land.
And even I think a lot of people would like to be here, but they just can't afford to do it, especially, with, lower wages as compared to points to our south as well. We're really up against, some big challenges that aren't easily solved. I will say it's not all doom and gloom. There is, the latest, demographic data from the census, shows that New Hampshire, we're one of only 10 states that's, seeing a net in migration of people in their 20s and 30s. And it's modest, don't get me wrong, a few thousand people a year, but it beats that out migration that we were seeing really during the Great Recession.
Yeah, that it is so interesting to consider, because with the problems that you named, isolation, say, lack of friends, I want to say, look, these are societal problems. These might be coast to coast because of the change in the way we interact. And I know, again, I am couching that in my great love of the state. And so how do you parse out what type of issue you can actually confront and what kind of transcends state borders and becomes fabric of the type of society we have built around our technologies?
Sure. So you're right that, a lot of these are larger societal trends. They're not isolated, just to New Hampshire. However, we're in New Hampshire and need to address them here locally, like you said. So, with regard to like the social isolation, the friendlessness, Stay Work Play is working to encourage making connections, from a social standpoint, from a community standpoint, from a giving back standpoint, across the board, and really looking at and highlighting those types of opportunities and those types of organizations for young people to make those connections. And we're encouraging employers that we work with, to encourage their employees to get involved somehow. And it's one of those things, and it's a culture shift, I think, for a lot of employers who previously they'd be like, well, what employees do on their own time, that's that's their business. That's, we're not going to get involved in that. And we're not telling people like to get up all in your employee's business. However, maybe as part of the onboarding process, you can let people know, particularly people who are new to the area, hey, these are some opportunities. Here's your local young professionals network. Here are the local kickball leagues. Here are the local hiking clubs. And you're just making that information, available, because a lot of folks, just don't know what's available. We like to say that New Hampshire is a state of best kept secrets. And I think it's absolutely true. There's so much great stuff going on here, but if you don't know about it, and for practical purposes, it might as well not exist. And if it's something that you want and you're not getting it here, not seeing it here, I think you're more inclined to leave. You look at something like the outdoors. That's something that, like, if you're into the outdoors, there's no, New Hampshire's the place for you, right? Or a place for you. But what if you're not? And some people believe, like a lot of the reasons a lot of us are here because of those outdoors, but not everybody's into it. What if you're more into like community theater or slam poetry or, anything like that? We have all of those things here all across the state, but we don't do a good enough job. All of us institutionally, our own organizations, individuals, state and local governments, of tooting our own horn. So I think that's, what we all need to do, not just to stay, work, play, but, everybody, just to let folks know what exists here. And then, I mentioned our nonpartisan issues-based advocacy program. That's something that our board of directors realized a few years ago that, look, if we really want to move the needle, that we need to do more. And particularly in the public policy realm, because that's where so many decisions are being made, that have these, bigger impacts. And they're not going to be immediate, but on things like housing affordability. I mean, there's a direct correlation sometime between how, say, local governments, regulate zoning in their towns, with regard to how many types of and what kinds of houses and apartments can be built, and, supply and demand issues. And you get in the weeds pretty quick on stuff like this, but it's so important. Same things with childcare and public transportation, and like all of these decisions, funding and otherwise, are being made by public bodies. And Stay, Work, Play, we realize that we need, to really be in those conversations and to be advocating on behalf of young people. Because, I mean, you go to Concord and, every other group under the sun has their lobbyists there, right? The bankers, the hospital association, the retail and merchants, have their people there, but there's no one there, at least until Stay, Work, Play got there, saying, well, what about young people, and advocating for them as a group.
Well, that is absolutely amazing. And, when you look at that structure of how that state continues to thrive, it does require an infrastructure investment. And then this notion that you had said about businesses, making sure that, these are businesses that essentially are building connection, businesses that are building family, and that are building kind of that referral chain to why be here, why connect, why stay. I think it's incredibly smart. And I'd love to hear more. When you approach, say, a business around this, what is your framework for that discussion so that it proves to be fertile and that they will, in fact, be a business that, say, builds family, which includes 20s and 30 somethings?
Yeah, no, and it's becoming increasingly more important for businesses to be more responsive to their employee needs. And I think that's always been the case, but the needs, and the demands, are changing and have been changing, with this younger generation, that are more perhaps family focused, in their time. I love the ability, of being able in the middle of the day, like if in like pre-COVID times, my kid had a little play or concert at school, of being able to take off at a random, 11:30 on a Wednesday to go to the school to see it, which might not have been possible, in previous generations. So, we tell employers if they want to be employers of choice, in this war for talent, and it is a war. Like I said, what the numbers came out the other day, 2.6% unemployment. We basically have full employment. Like every company needs as many people as they can get. And to do that, they need to stand out. And how do they stand out? Again, by being responsive to what their employees want and need. And I think, you talk about a silver lining to COVID. I think that kind of work from home flexibility, has been one that we're going to see continue on, and that I think smart employers will continue to offer in those roles where it's possible, to be able to offer that and giving people that flexibility, to be able to focus, on their family and other needs. I think that, those, you have to meet people where they are. And again, like I said, with, getting people connected, employees connected, you don't want to be all up in people's business. And, I don't want my employer up in my personal business all the time, but to the extent that I know that they care about things that I care about and things that I need, I like that. And it engenders loyalty. Another example is, with regard to to childcare, something that we're starting to see. I mean, there's a childcare crisis in the state as well, just not enough, affordable childcare slots. So, and there are a number of reasons for that, but some of the smarter employers are beginning to look and say, what can we do to help our employees out with this pain point that they have? And sometimes it's, you don't see really a lot of employers, having their own childcare facilities, but you have companies like Badger out in the Monadnock region. I mean, they let you bring your baby to work. It's under 6 months old. I mean, you have others, that are reserving childcare slots in the area. They're not paying for it, but they might pay a little bit to, have some retainer fee, as it were. Again, trying to help out. Some do give stipends, for childcare and other type issues. So I think employers who want to be an employer of choice have to know what their employees, what those pain points are, and work to address them.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, this is a battle. You see kind of the bleeding at the edges down to Mass. When we moved, my wife was 8 months pregnant, and we had kind of just threw ourselves in the front of a U-Haul. And one of my great fears is that took a lot. And the idea that either of my sons will go to school, say, in Chicago, I'm like, no, you don't know how hard we fought for this. So I really appreciate it that you're doing this. And I do wonder, what's you finding fertile ground for this conversation through the advocacy lens?
I think, generally, yes, it's, because it's one of those things, like you talk about things like housing affordability and childcare, like those are things that truly are nonpartisan. Like, everybody needs a place to live that's affordable for them, no matter what that, is on the spectrum of housing options, just like for childcare, like we all need childcare. Some of us are fortunate maybe to have, grandmas and grandpas who can, watch kids during the day, but, most of us aren't that lucky. So these are things that regardless of political ideology that we all need and want, and that our communities need, if we want to function, that employers need, that, we all need. Sometimes it's easier said than done to find solutions, for those things that might be, amenable to people of all political persuasions. But I think that, seeing and recognizing these issues as issues is definitely falling on fertile ground.
Yeah, that's great. I really, really appreciate the conversation, Will. I thank you so much for joining us. I would love for you to come back when you have some sort of initiatives or things like that, or advocacy that we can jump in on and really throw our weight behind.
Well, it's all connected, and we can help you out as well. Please let us know too.
I certainly will. To learn more about Stay Work Play New Hampshire, go to stayworkplay.org.
Currently, we are starting to look out of state because we're not sure if we're going to be able to afford to stay here and start a family and buy a house. We may have to move out of state because we're income constrained.
Many thanks to the Samuel P. Hunt Foundation for sponsoring this podcast. Established in 1951, Samuel P. Hunt Foundation is a Manchester-based, independent nonprofit that provides grants primarily for the arts, children and youth services, faith-based organizations, educational institutions, healthcare, and human services. New Hampshire Family Now is listed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and more. Listen wherever you get your podcasts or ask your smart speaker to play New Hampshire Family Now.